You guys asked for it. I'm finally going to give it to you. Here are some of my recommendations for you when you visit China. In this particular video, it's going to be the top 5 ancient villages or ancient towns in China for you to visit while you are here. In my opinion, probably the coolest thing to do while you are visiting China is to visit a genuine ancient Chinese town. But there are so many ancient towns in China, so many towns that are advertised as ancient towns. How do you know which one to go to? I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you can get there, within an hour of Shanghai, maybe taking a subway within Shanghai, it's probably okay. It's not bad. You're going to have a good time, but it's not going to be one of the best experiences you could possibly have in China. I'm sick and tired of people going to the same villages, the same ancient towns, the same water towns in China on their vlogs and making the same content. I've told you guys this multiple times now. I want to see something better. So I'm going to be the change that I want to see in this world, and I'm going to tell you guys some places that you could go and hopefully make something more exciting, more interesting, more beautiful, I think, more unique, something I want to watch. Or if you're not a vlogger, not a YouTuber, even better, just when you come to China, come travel these places and experience real China and have a great time during your visit. Let's get started. Number 5, Furongjian, or Furong Ancient Town. Furong is a quaint little village that was made famous by a Chinese film of the same name. In fact, the name of the town was actually changed to match the title of the film in order to capitalize on the fame of the movie and attract more visitors. It has another claim to fame, and that is the gorgeous waterfall that is right in the middle of town. When you do visit Furong Village, you want to visit in the summer, which is the rainy season. Yeah, you might get wet, but the waterfall in the village will be much more impressive. When I last visited this town, there was no high-speed rail, so it was relatively quiet and peaceful compared to the nearby, more popular ancient town called Fenghuang. However, that has since changed, and now the best way to get there is actually by high-speed rail. You want to travel to Furong Village Station and then take a local taxi or public transit to the village. Furong is a great place to explore on foot, which is pretty much the only way you can, so if you have limited mobility, I do not recommend this old town. It is built along a cliffside, and much of the village is only traversable by stairs and old stone footpaths. I recommend that you visit here for at least 2 days and 1 night. There is a cultural show in the evening that is actually pretty fun to watch. There are tons of nooks and crannies to explore, pretty good food to eat, and it is all pretty affordable, seeing as how it's not quite as popular as some of the other old ancient towns. If you do want to sit at a restaurant or a bar overlooking the waterfall, you will pay for the view. Those restaurants with the best views are quite a bit pricier, and honestly, they're not necessarily as good as some of the other restaurants in town, but the view is worth it. So at least grab an overpriced beer or a tea or a soda and sit and take a rest for a while, maybe at dusk, and you can enjoy a nice night view of the waterfall and the ancient village. I recommend this village over Fenghuang, which again is nearby. If you have time, however, why not visit both and see for yourself? Fenghuang is also very beautiful in its own right. The main drawback of Fenghuang versus Furong Village is simply that it is usually much more crowded and commercialized. Number 4, Yaoli Cun. Yaoli Cun is almost assuredly a village that you've never heard of, but I found it to be a magical place during my visit. It is tiny, it is barely developed for tourism, but it is worth a day and maybe even a night just to experience a mystical, magical, ancient southern Chinese town. You're going to be hard pressed to find this feeling anywhere else. There are very few visitors and there is no easy rail access, which means if you value a place that is somewhat preserved in the old ways and less of a tourist trap than most of the villages in China, then this is a great spot to visit. It is located near Jingdezhen, famous for Chinese porcelain, aka China. To be clear, not the country called China, but the plates and the bowls and the cups that your grandma keeps in her cupboards. A river runs through town, of course, as always. There's rickety pedestrian bridges and stone paths that get you back and forth across the water. And old Chinese grannies and grandpas, they'll stare at you and they're gonna utter lao wai every time you cross their path. The only reason that this village isn't higher up on the list is because honestly there isn't a lot to do here. It isn't super developed, like I said. There's not really much tourist infrastructure, especially for foreign tourists. You're not gonna find McDonald's or Starbucks here. The only way to get here is via bus or self-driving, but if you are in the area, let's say after visiting Yellow Mountain in Anhui province, which isn't too far away, or Jingdezhen for going to shop for porcelain, well, you might as well take a day trip to Yaoli Village. You could even stay overnight in the village and experience unique old ancient Jiangxi province. Number 3, Chengyang Bajai. Chengyang Bajai is maybe cheating a little bit because the Bajai indicates that there's actually 8 villages here, not only 1, but they are all more or less connected by the many famous covered ancient bridges here in the area. They're also separated by mountainous terrain and the winding river. Changyang in Guangxi province is home primarily to the Dong ethnic minority group, and they have their own language, traditions, clothes, culture, history, architecture, foods, and more. They are one of China's 56 recognized ethnic groups. And visiting Changyang Bazai, you will feel like you have stepped into an entirely different China from that of when you landed in Shanghai or Beijing. To get to Changyang, well, hard for me to tell you exactly. It depends on where you're coming from, of course. You can get a bus from Sanjiang train station. Honestly, the hardest part of me sharing these villages with you is telling you how to get there. Because train stations, they pop up almost overnight in China. Bus routes, they may come, they may go. New roads might be built since the last time I've been there. So to be honest, you can just self-drive. It's not so complicated. I made a video about how to self-drive in China, and you can watch it following the links in the description. In my opinion, it's fun, and it gives you a lot more freedom and comfort to get to where you want to go. But if you must take public transit, again, you can find a bus from somewhere in the area. There are buses from Liuzhou, Guiyang. I don't know, dude. I'm not really a tour guide. Anyway, you can figure it out. You can use Google. Once you get here, you're going to see what I mean when I say that this is an amazing place. You can climb the mountains around the village, cross the covered bridges. Once you get up in the mountains around the tea fields, you're going to have great views. You're going to be able to engage in nice one-on-one conversations with local villagers as they pick tea leaves. It's just going to be an amazing, magical time. Well worth a visit in my opinion. Number 2. Once again, I am cheating because I have 2 villages instead of just 1. These 2 villages are Jinyuan and Miaozai. They are both located in Guizhou province and not too far from each other. They are both traditionally home to Miao people and Dong and a few other ethnic groups. So I would say these 2 villages are close enough to each other and similar enough culturally that I can lump them together. Plus, if you do go to one, you might as well go to the other one, if time permits, on your journey. Miao people are actually known as Hmong in the English-speaking world, so if you are from California like me, you probably already know a bunch of Hmong people. When it comes to these 2 villages, let's start with Jinyuan because that's my favorite. Incredible, time-worn houses hug the meandering river. Chinese lanterns adorn the buildings and line the stone streets. Long boats cruise the river. Ancient stone bridges get you back and forth. You can hike to the top of the mountain in just an hour or 2. You can have a great panoramic view of the sunrise. You might even make a few friends while you are up there, just like I did. Jinyuan does have a train station, so that's probably going to be your best bet on how to get there. Now, after exploring Jinyuan, you can head to Miaozai, the Miao village, traditionally built wooden stilt structures along a valley and up the sides of mountains. This is the film Spirited Away come to life. It is beautiful and it is magical, and it is well worth at least 2 days to spend here. You want to find a guest house high up in the hills. You're going to have to walk a little bit, but it's incredible to watch the village light up at night as the sun goes down. You spend a day hiking in the mountains outside of town, discover spectacular view after spectacular view around every mountain bend. To get there, again, self-drive, I say. But if you're not comfortable with that, you can take a train to Kaili train station, and then you're going to want to take a taxi or a bus to the village. Now, before we get to number 1, I have another recommendation, and this one is the best ancient village for true China adventurers. This is for people who are not afraid to get lost and get off the beaten track. This village is basically an abandoned town, home to less than 100 people currently. There is no hotel, there's hardly any shops, there's almost nothing here, except for a handful of people clinging to their old homes and their old way of life. This village has an ancient rammed earth city wall in the shape of a tortoise. You're not going to be able to tell it's a tortoise unless you get above it, so bring a drone. The only real way to get here is to drive yourself. This place is called Yongtai Fortress, and it is located in Gansu province. You want to go here, camp out for a night in your car or in a tent. Every night at dusk, you can watch the locals bring their sheep back in to within the city walls after a day of grazing. You can share a beer with a local, let him regale you with stories in an accent that you probably cannot understand. People are friendly, they're welcoming, and they're going to be shocked to see you, and you're going to have a great time. Here you can enjoy China, far away from the rest of the entire world, under 1 billion stars. This is another magical and fascinating place. Highly recommended. And now it's time for number 1. Shaxi village in Yunnan. Nestled in a foggy valley between mountains, once again along a slow meandering river, Shaxi is absolutely a must visit when you come to China. I don't care if it's far away from Shanghai, I don't care if you have a short time, you have to come to Shaxi. Shaxi is along the ancient Tea Horse Trail that connected China with far-flung places like Myanmar and Tibet in the ancient times. Spend as much time here as you like. You're not going to feel bored. There's always something to find. You can walk or hike up into the hills around the town and see ancient temples and wild monkeys. You can hang out in the village and bask in the shadows of truly ancient, well-preserved Chinese structures like this theater here in the old market square. You will see farmers and villagers and ethnic groups like the Bai or the Yi hanging out in the village, selling their goods, talking to each other, having a great time. In the morning, you might see locals leading their horses or their donkeys through town and heading off into the mountains. People still walk long distances over these ancient trails. Man, like, what can I say? It's just a wonderful place. And the best thing of all, Shaxi is not yet completely spoiled by tourism. There is still no train station. You're going to want to take a bus or self-drive, probably from Dali or Lijiang, which are also both old towns that are nice to visit in their own right, but neither really hold a candle to Shaxi in terms of history, culture, authenticity, feeling. But there is still enough tourism and development here to have some great guest houses and hotels. There's also really good food options, including a vegetarian restaurant that, if it's still there, it's really quite nice. Shaxi really feels like you're stepping back in time to a very different world and to a very different China. However, it still has enough of the modern amenities that most tourists need and want. I love Shaxi, and in my opinion, can't miss location for anybody who wants to see and experience a different side of China. So those are my top 5, or actually, if you count them all up, probably more like top 15 ancient towns in China. But you get the idea. Let me know what you think. Have you been to these villages? Have you been to these towns? Have you been to any other ones? Which one's the best? Anyway, bye-bye.